Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Angus, and today we're going to be talking about the character we've all been waiting for to get our hands on at the second half of 2.4, Ganyu. Since her release last year, I believe everyone has seen her amazing damage dealing capability and how good she is against all types of bosses. She can nail through all types of content in the game currently. In this video, I'll be breaking down Ganyu's skills, her constellation, passives, some recommended teams for her, and finally I'll give my personal opinion towards Ganyu and why you should or shouldn't pull for her. First, let's talk about her normal attacks. When Ganyu uses her normal attack, she will perform 6 consecutive shots with her bow. Ganyu is an archer who highly depends on charged attacks to deal damage. There are 2 charged attacks level for her charged bowstring. At level 1, Ganyu will shoot an arrow which deals cryo damage. At charge level 2, she will fire an arrow which deals cryo damage, which will then blooms and deal AoE damage. Her level 2 charged shot will require a 2-second charge time, and if you get hit or get disturbed by any effects during the charge, the attack will be cancelled. If you don't know, the spread damage could also be triggered even if you didn't hit anything, which means when the enemy is next to you, you could just shoot the floor and hit them. For her elemental skill, Ganyu will dash backwards, dealing AoE crowd damage and create an ice lotus on the ground. This flower will taunt all opponents, attracting them to attack it. The lotus will deal AoE crowd damage when it is destroyed or when its duration ends. And finally, Ganyu's elemental burst will summon a crowd pearl and deals AoE crowd damage continuously to the opponent. This skill has a very large coverage on the battlefield and could always damage all the opponents at once. So all about her passives. The passive of Ganyu is what makes her amazing. The first passive, she will refund 15% of the ore used while crafting bow type weapon. The second passive is absolutely busted, as Ganyu will gain a 20% of crit rate when the spread shot hits an enemy. Since Ganyu deals damage mainly by her charged shots, this means she had a 20% crit rate built in her kit. The third passive is amazing too, giving all party members on field 20% of crowd damage bonus while inside Ganyu's burst. For Ganyu's skill Ascension, since she deals damage with her charged shot mainly, it is recommended to upgrade her normal attack first, then her elemental burst, and finally her elemental skill. Now let's talk about her constellation. At Constellation 1, Ganyu's level 2 charged shot will decrease the opponent's crowd resistance by 15% for 6 seconds, and also regenerates 2 energy for Ganyu. Constellation 1 is pretty good since it regenerates energy for Ganyu and decreases the enemy's crowd resistance, which makes Ganyu hit harder and deals more damage. Constellation 2 will gain Ganyu's elemental skill one more use. This doesn't really matter too much since it will only be effective when you have a C6 Ganyu, which we'll be talking about in just a second. Constellation 3 and 5 will increase Ganyu's elemental skill and burst for 3 levels, just the basic stuffs. At Constellation 4, opponents inside of Ganyu's burst will take more damage over time. Increased damage taken begins at 5% and increases by 5% for every 3 seconds up to 25%. And it will linger for 3 seconds after the opponent leaves the AoE damage. This is a bonus for Ganyu, and most importantly, this constellation actually makes her capable to be a support/buffer in the team. So even though in the later version of Genshin Impact, even if Ganyu's damage is overcreeped by the new OP DPS characters, she can still be a support in your team, and this makes her such a hedging character. just like the Raiden Shogun. And finally, Constellation 6. This is what makes Ganyu so powerful and broken. You might not realize how big of an improvement in terms of damage until you compare the DPS of a C5 and C6 Ganyu. After unlocking Constellation 6, Ganyu's first shot after using her elemental skill will not require charging, which means she can shoot 2 charged bow shots after using her elemental skill. This is a huge improvement to her burst damage and overall DPS because, as you all know, Ganyu's charged shots requires charging, which will take about 2 seconds. Being able to spam her level 2 charged shots and get all the damage out in such a short period of time makes her very capable of doing speedrun in the Spiral Abyss. Now that we've covered Ganyu's skill, let's talk about her weapon. Is he free-to-play friendly in terms of weapon, or do you need to rely on 5-star options? But luckily, Ganyu is pretty free-to-play friendly, since most of her 4-star damage dealing bows are free-to-play accessible. First up, we have the Prototype Crescent. This bow will boost your attack massively if you hit the weak spot of an enemy. However, please keep in mind that bosses do not have weak spots, so you can only trigger this passive when fighting smaller enemies. Next up, we have Hayayumi. With the release of Inazuma, this bow is actually a new free-to-play option for Ganyu. Its passive will increase charged attack damage by 12%. Since we mentioned Ganyu deals damage mainly with her charged attacks, this bow will boost your damage massively. And since it doesn't have any limitation, this bow can be used in any situation. Also, if you have her burst ready, this attack buff will be doubled and this can boost your damage even more. At Refinement 1, you can get at least 24% charged shot bonus just by using this bow, and there's no doubt that the Hayayumi is the best free-to-play bow that you can get in the game right now. The 2 4-star weapons listed above will serve you well if you want to use Ganyu as a main DPS character. However, if you want to use Ganyu as a sub-DPS or support, then the Shrinkless would probably be a better option for you. Having Elemental Mastery as a substat will boost her elemental skill and burst damage. Sacrificial Bow will also work if you want to have maximum uptime for her elemental burst. Ganyu works well with any 5-star bows, but the one and only bow that releases Ganyu's true and full potential is the Amino's bow. This bow has a very high base attack and attack substat, which will boost her overall damage output. At R1, your charged attack damage will be increased by 12%, and for every 0.1 second the arrow flies in the air, you will gain 12% more damage for a maximum of 5 stacks. Ganyu is the only character that can fully utilize this weapon, and since this is a standard banner weapon, you could potentially get this weapon in the standard banner. This also counts as free-to-play friendly if you are lucky enough to get this bow in the standard banner. If you really don't have the Amino's bow, Skyward's Harp is also a decent choice for Ganyu, since it boosts her crit rate and damage. And the Polar Star also boosts her crit rate and elemental skill and burst damage. Okay, so about artifacts. Ganyu has 2 possible artifact sets that she can use depends on how you want to play her, either in a freeze team or in a melt team. If you are going for a freeze team, you are definitely going for the Blizzard Stray 4-piece set. This will increase your crowd damage, but also you will get a 40% extra crit rate from the 4-piece passive. This allows you to invest heavily on crit damage instead of crit rate, since from her passive you will get 20% of crit rate along with the 40% you get from this set. If you want to go for a melt team, then you should definitely be going for the 4-piece Warner's Trope set. This set not only will give you 80 elemental mastery, but it will also grant Ganyu 35% extra charged attack damage, which will give you the ability to deal crazy amount of damage to the enemies affected with Pyro. Now for Ganyu's team comp. Since Ganyu is a Cryo character, therefore she can have access to multiple elemental reactions. So if you want to play her in a freeze team, Ganyu, Mona, Fenty, and Diona is one of your best and meta teams for clearing Spiral Abyss since Ganyu's release. If you didn't know, since Ganyu's burst deals AoE damage, when all the enemies are being trapped into one place by Fenty's burst, the damage output will grow exponentially. This team is also very flexible. For example, if you don't have Fenty, Kazuha and Sucrose will work fine in this team. Same for Kokomi, which can be swapped for Mona as a Hydro applicator, and Ayaka for Diona if you don't have her built. If you have pulled for Xinghe already, then she is definitely taking that Cryo spot in Ganyu's team. I've made a video talk about how and why Xinghe is the best Cryo support for Ganyu, and you should feel free to check that video out. The video link will be in the description. If you want to go for a melt team, teaming up with Bennett, Xingling, and Kazuha will work completely fine. Kazuha will throw both Cryo and Pyro to boost the elemental damage. Bennett will be providing attack buff, and Xingling will be the Pyro applicator and a sub-DPS. If you don't have Kazuha, then you could use Sucrose instead and it will work completely fine. I think with that, we have covered just about everything you need to know about Ganyu, and this has come to the final question. Is Ganyu worth pulling for? After taking a look at her skill, we can definitely see how amazing Ganyu is in terms of dealing damage as a damage dealer. Since she's an archer, she is the only long-range DPS in Genshin Impact. The ability to dish out crazy damage in just one charged shot is absolutely amazing. If you are playing in a freeze team, because of the artifact set, you can just stack crit damage and you'll be dealing 15k damage per shot. Ganyu is completely free-to-play friendly since her free-to-play weapons are totally accessible to all players. A properly invested Ganyu will not disappoint you. Since Ganyu is a very well-rounded character, even if one day Ganyu's damage is not enough for future bosses and have been left behind, she can still shine with her ability to be a Cryo applicator and even a support if you have a C4 or above Ganyu. She is a very hedging character, and if you like her, you should definitely pull for her. Even though I've been praising Ganyu for her flexibility and ability to conquer every content in the game, I've heard the fact that Ganyu's playstyle is not for everyone. If you don't like FPS shooter games, or you don't like the aim and shoot playstyle, I do not suggest you to pull for her. Always play the character in trial and make sure you really like the playstyle of that character before spending your primal gems on them. Anyway, that's pretty much all. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something about Ganyu. If you indeed enjoyed this video, please feel free to check out my other videos about Xinghe and more. Also, please keep in mind that I'm planning on making more related videos in the future. So if you would like to see more of these videos, please like and comment down below. I really appreciate it, and it will also boost YouTube's algorithm. Let me know whether or not you're going to pull for Ganyu, or you'll be skipping her for future characters. And if you want to see more Genshin Impact videos, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on notification. We're actually getting really close to 1,000 subscribers, and I really appreciate all of your support. And if you're new and would like to help me reach that goal, then I greatly appreciate your support and would like to have you along with the ride. And if you hate me later, you can always unsubscribe. That's pretty much all. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.